Welcome to Hope Talks, where we share inspiring stories of hope in Jesus Christ. Hope Talks is hosted by Pastor Margaret Michael and Grayson Willis. Join us for uplifting stories of triumph, faith, and the enduring power of Christ's love. Also, if you're in the listening area, tune into 1470 AM or 102.1 FM WBTX to listen to Hope Talks every Sunday at noon.
Welcome to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. I'm Grayson Willis.
I'm Pastor Margaret Michael.
Thanks for tuning in, and today we're joined by Angela Martin. Angela, how are you doing?
I am doing good. Thank you.
It is so good to have you with us. Angela, you are a familiar face around this church. Not that you attend here, but that you have worked on the Kids Harbor Hall. How long?
It's almost 7 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And I'm still sane.
Yes, you are still sane, and you are still holding and loving babies.
I do, yeah.
You do that throughout the week, and you actually help out at Celebrate Recovery on Monday nights as well, and get to love on some of the kids there.
That is a real pleasure.
Yeah, well, it is. We are very grateful to have you be a part of this church and just sharing your love with a lot of babies. And we want to hear a little bit about your life, but today you don't just share your life with babies, you share your life with adults too, and yes. You love discipleship, and we'll get to talk about what that looks like even for you in the greater world that we live in.
Okay.
But maybe you just want to start out, for those that don't know Angela Martin, a little bit about who you are, where you grew up.
Okay. Well, I was actually born here in Virginia, but moved away when I was about a year old. And I'm a preacher's kid, and not anything. It was no big and elaborate churches. We were always in kind of small churches. And then when I was, I think about 8, my dad went with a mission board, and I wasn't an overseas MK. We were here in the States, and he was like their field representative. So I don't think churches do missions conferences quite the same way that we did when I was little, but my life was in big chunks going to missions conferences, and they were a week long, and I loved them. So I think that instilled a love for missions in me and a great respect.
Yes.
Like preachers and missionaries were top tier. And so now as I'm older, I recognize that, and that love has just grown in me. Obviously, Christian home. I went to a Christian school, Christian college. All my friends were Christians, and I cannot blame anything in my past for the detours that I took as an adult. I never doubted my faith. I never doubted Jesus. I didn't deconstruct, but I just wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I think in my head, it was like, when I grow up, I'll be a good Christian. Now, you know, I'm 30 and thinking, when I grow up, I'll be. But I like to tell people, I think in my head, a good Christian looked a certain way. And, you know, in the circles that I was in, that was sort of true. And I think I had this idea that if I just really started living for the Lord, that I was going to have to wear polyester and ugly shoes. And
Jesus, take the wheel, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like, I'll do this when I grow up and don't like cute shoes anymore. But after a long time running and doing my own thing, I really, for quite a while, God had just been working on me, and I was hearing just the right sermons and got closer and closer. And one day I was driving down the road, and I kind of held the steering wheel with the back of my hand so I wouldn't drive without hands. And I just held them open and said, I surrender. Quite literally. And it was honestly a little scary, but I didn't care what would happen. I didn't care if I had to wear polyester and ugly shoes. That's what the surrender was about. Whatever you want to do, you just do it. And he was pretty radical with me. And I had a very big turnaround, and I can say I haven't looked back. And it was a big difference in my life. It was really a beautiful thing.
You could see the fruit.
Yes. And it was interesting because I changed churches right at that same time, which was nice for me because everybody that met me just, figured I'd always been that way. So, no need to disillusion. But I think what my big takeaway on this, my life story, and what I want people to get a hold of is God's not a cookie cutter God. He loves diversity of all sorts. He did not cut us out with a cookie cutter. And what I discovered after I turned everything over to him was that I became who I'd been created to be. It was like all the extra got chipped away, and I thought, oh, this is who I am.
I'm tracking with you.
Yeah, I know you are. We've shared stories a little bit. And so we think of surrender in our society and just in general, it's not a good word. It's not good to surrender. You lose when you surrender. But it's the opposite in kingdom terminology.
Right. Yeah.
And surrender is what brings freedom.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, because we either surrender to the Lord or we surrender to the world and sin. And so we surrender to something. So it's surrendering in the Christian belief is surrendering control of our lives over to God.
Yeah. And it does. He's the one who made us. And the Bible, Ephesians says we're his workmanship. So if he's the one who made us, when we're walking in his steps, that's when we become what's real.
Yeah. And to be fully human, to be who God created us to be. And sometimes people think, well, if you're fully human, it's a fleshly thing. But no, God created humanity to be who he calls them to be. And it is different. And, I'm looking at you right now and I have this leopard hat on. That's all I can see is this bill. We're unique, not made like anyone else to engage a world. And the cookie cutter's hard to get out from under that idea of this is what it looks like to be a believer and to realize, hey, God created Angela Martin to be Angela Martin, not to be who she sees someone else be. Right. Exactly who he's called you to be. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And you mentioned we surrender to something. As you were talking, I was thinking that's not the only cookie cutter. Most of the time we're trying to fit into some mold, even if we think it's a unique mold. You know how kids in high school, they all dress the same way because they want to be different. And it's like, but so there's always something that we're trying to fit into.
Yeah.
So, Angela, Pastor Margaret mentioned you serve here at Kids Harbor and that you've been here for 7 years, but you also minister to adults.
Yes.
And so if you want to share about how you got into that.
Okay. Well, I was actually, I felt like my calling was I love to teach. And I think in about 2015, I joined a women's ministry and helped write a Bible study, and we spoke in different churches. I didn't do a lot of speaking, but some. Working on that Bible study was just the best thing. It was wonderful. But I enjoyed teaching women, doing women's conferences. And so it was funny when I first started working at Kids Harbor, people know that you do children. They just assume you're children's ministry. And I'm like, I like teaching little people, but I like teaching big people too. And it is really fun to be able to work with adults and then come in and see my babies. So I was with that ministry for several years, and we were all from different places. So a lot of our meetings, we did Skype. And I'm no longer with that ministry, but a friend of mine, a dear friend from that ministry, was also doing some mission trips to the Middle East. And I thought, well, that's cool. And I joke with people, I'm always scared. Am I really wanting to do mission trips because I like to travel? Or is it because... And, then I finally figured God makes us. It, again,
He gives us the desires of our heart.
Yes. So I know there are people who do mission trips that really don't care to travel and they don't like food from other countries, but it's where God puts them and they do it.
Yeah.
But she would tell me about it, and she was part of this ministry that was in the middle of they did a 5-year training session in a Middle Eastern country with women coming from surrounding countries and doing this training. And she did that full 5 years, and they finished and were going to move to a different country. And she said, Angela, is it okay if I refer you? I said, yes, please. And there'd actually been a little talk of me going with the first group. It was about halfway through, and COVID hit, and they didn't travel that year. They did everything by video. So we are now in the middle. We're a year in to the second 5-year training program. We work with our MENA sisters, which is Middle East and North Africa. We're very careful about how much we share with people because a lot of these women are MBBs, Muslim background believers. Typically, all of those that I have interacted with, their immediate family is a Christian family. But they call it big family and little family. And of course, it's a very family-oriented society. So they have family members who don't know where they are when they come to the conference. Some of them come at great risk. They'll tell me their testimonies, and it is such an honor to spend time with these women because their stories are neat. But this 5-year training, they commit to coming twice a year.
Okay.
And they have to. And as a team, we commit to going at least once a year. This last year, I was able to go. I went in the fall, I went in the spring, and I'm going again this fall. I never thought I'd get to go twice in a year.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. But it's a discipleship program. And I wrote down our mission statement because I always forget it. Yes. It is to train selected women to be godly, competent, and confident leaders in the church. So as much as it would be lovely to just have whoever comes and have a large conference, these are women who are primarily recommended by their pastors. They are supposed to be in leadership positions in their church already because no one's training them. Some of the more open countries, they might have a conference that they go to, but having discipleship and mentoring is not, because women aren't valued. Yeah. Kind of third tier.
And I was thinking, I've been over to the Middle East one time, and just the culture there. You talked about the culture they come out of, Muslim background believers, and so this is probably a new concept to them, leadership, and based on what they've been told, and so it's very important to let them know that they can.
Yes, and as these women are in some positions of leadership in their church, they are being allowed that. It's pretty limited, but in the back of their minds, and probably not too far back in their minds, they're not equal. The whole honor shame culture goes far deeper than as Americans we can even begin to understand. It's thousands of years. I want to learn more about that because it helps you understand the Bible better because it was an honor shame. The best way I can put it is if someone in your family does something shameful, here it embarrasses ourselves or it brings shame on us. It's not just that your parents are really embarrassed because you embarrassed them. It brings shame on the whole family. And it's very, very deep. And one of the first things we taught on my first trip over was shame and just trying to get people some freedom from that and the different types of shame.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, like you said, that goes deep. And it doesn't go away with one conversation.
Right.
Like it is a deep cultural thing that they're coming out from, and the fact that you all continue that. It's not a one and done.
Right.
But it is a continual for them. Yeah, things that people have no idea is happening in this world. Like, and going and just being there and being a presence and being an encouragement. I have been able to go to some of those countries, and it is like we were in Turkey, and I was talking to a woman. She had never met a woman pastor before. It was like, what? Like she just couldn't wrap her brain around that because it's so unheard of. Yeah. So I'm just thinking back to that day and that conversation that we were able to have and able to encourage her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very careful. This ministry has just floored me at how good they are, what they do. And we receive cultural training before we go. We're told what to wear, how to act. But even more so, they, I read some material to give me an idea of the culture. And the goal really with us, it's not to change the culture. Yeah. And you can't. They've been around a lot longer than we have. Right. But it's to help them lead and grow in their culture. One of the sessions, there's only a couple of people who actually do the large group teaching. We have large groups, and then we follow them up with small groups of about 5 or 6 people. So we got a lot of really nice, intimate one-on-one time. But one of the teachers is from the MENA area, and she does a session on marriage. An American could not do that session. We have no right to tell them what it should look like, and we have no understanding. I was in the session where she taught, but it was completely in Arabic, so I don't know what she said, but I saw her face, you know, the love she had for these women. But that's a tough subject.
It is, yeah.
So you all are really partnering with them over there.
Oh, yes.
And so, like you said, you couldn't understand what you were saying, but I'm sure you could see the joy and the love on her face.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that, because singing is just, I don't sing well, but I do sing. We sing together. You know, we have a worship service before every teaching, and they sing in Arabic and we sing in English if it's a song we know. And I think my favorite thing is hearing them sing.
They sing, and I've been in an Arabic service, and the amount of joy and exuberance, and you can't put into words what that's like, because they know freedom in Christ on a whole deeper level. When you have to maybe live it underground in your real life, we can't fathom that. But the most exuberant worship service I've ever been in has been in Arabic.
They go at it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, the one time I went over to the Middle East, one of the highlights was going to an Arabic Christian church. And these people, some of them come from a Christian background, but they still are in a culture that isn't very accepting. Even if they're not underground, they're still, so it's just great to see the expression, the joy, that even if you don't understand the words or even maybe aren't familiar with the songs, it's just a highlight. It gives you a picture of what heaven might be like one day.
Right.
Although it might be more like Pentecost, where everybody speaks and sings in their own language and we all understand each other.
Right.
That would be the one difference.
Yeah, it is. It's really special. And I knew some of the women, a little bit of their story. And I remember I had some girls they're women, but I had some women in my first small group there who came from a country where the church was completely closed, and it's all house churches, and if it gets too big, then you split and start a new one. And I looked around and I said, was that the first time that you've done corporate worship? They said it was the first time since the church had closed in, the teens. They'd not been in large group worship like that for years.
We really take for granted here what worship is. We really take for granted. Like, it's not just coming in and singing songs, right? I mean, and I believe that, I come in and I worship, but is it to that level? Yeah.
Well, you remember in Acts where it says that Peter and John left rejoicing that they had been considered worthy to suffer.
Yeah.
That's how they are. I'll read our ministry newsletters, because the ministry is not just to women. Our part is. And I don't mean just to women, only to women. But they work with a lot of pastors and trained pastors. And it reminds me of that story, because I'll read things in the newsletter that's going on, and somebody will have been, taken out of their home and jailed and all of this. And they'll say, but praise God, so-and-so came to Christ because of this.
Yeah. You
and
don't miss the obvious.
I was in jail and I got hurt. And he was like, praise Jesus, because.
Yeah. This is because of the calling that I have on my life. The suffering comes because I have the opportunity to share Christ. Yeah. It's a whole different perspective.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, we don't have a concept of that, but it is like the early church where they were jailed, and the Apostle Paul is a great example of how he ministered to people in jail. And it's like you said, we don't understand that culture.
Yeah, we don't. I'd like to give a book title that I think would really help people to see. There's a book called Women Who Risk by Tom Doyle, and they required us to read it before we went. It's an easy read. It's like reading fiction because the stories are so compelling, and it's the individual stories of different women in that area and their stories of how they come to Christ. And sometimes it's their husband too. It'll tell the story as a couple. I'm so glad. I recommend that book to anyone interested in these stories. Now, one reason I wanted to bring it up was something that's just been planted and sitting in my head since I started this. There was a couple of women, and I know both of you know this, a lot of times the way the Lord works in the Middle East is through dreams. Yeah. And people who don't know Jesus at all have a dream about him. That it's amazing. Some of the, and I met some women who he appeared to them in a dream. But the story was of these two friends. They were not married yet, young women, and they were feeling very disillusioned. And Islam is not a kind religion to women. And so these young women are feeling that, even as they're in the midst of it and consider themselves good Muslims. And one told the other, she said, Hagar is supposed to be like the mother, and she's like Sarah is to us. Right. They said, but Hagar's name is not mentioned in the Quran. Now, I haven't personally read it, so I don't want to say that too dogmatically, but they said that her name is not mentioned. And, it was Hagar that when she was out in the middle of nowhere, I'm going to read the verse, Genesis 16:13. So Hagar named the Lord who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me," for she said, "Here I have seen one who sees me."
I love that.
And that's a refrain that you get with them because they feel very unseen. And I started thinking about it when I was there, and where we were, not everyone was in full burqa, but there were plenty. And I realized you don't see them. I thought, that's what this means. I'm only seeing their eyes. And I started looking into eyes so that they would be seen. And one of the girls in this chapter that I'm telling you about, she said, I had a dream last night. And she said, Elroy came to me and said, I see you.
Yeah. Well, some people wonder, they're like, well, how can people in other countries that never hear about the Lord? Well, through dreams. The Lord doesn't, he uses people to minister to people that don't know him, but he uses us, he wants us, but he doesn't need to use us to reveal himself to anybody.
Right. Well, it says even the stones cry out.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of where this training comes in, because people will become believers and they know their Bibles. I'll tell you one more sweet little story. My ministry is called Ananias House, and Ananias House, they provide for all of these women to come. They don't have to pay anything. They have obligations, but their trip is paid for, their lodging is paid for. And they got Bibles for all of them, and they're so pretty. They're blue with silver writing on the outside, and it's very funny. You sit there, and y'all know this. They start at what is the back of the Bible to us. But they each got this beautiful Bible, and at the end, one of the directors said, you can, if you're from such and such a country, she said, you can leave your Bibles. We'll put your name in them, and we will have them for you the next time you come back. That killed me. Yeah. And one of them said, no, I'm taking my Bible. But won't you get in trouble? I'm taking it. So all of their notes at the end of the week are available on PDF form so that they don't have to carry the notes physically on the plane to go back.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I have two young women in my life from Muslim background that had dreams. That they came to Christ here in this community.
Wow.
And one of them, one day, she was talking to me, and she called me Margie. She's like, Margie, I had a dream. I'm like, I perked up. I'm like, yeah, you did? And she said, yeah. So what was the dream? She said, I dreamed that all of my teeth fell out. But when they fell out, I already had new teeth. And I'm like, I'm going to think on that. I was dropping off her. I'm like, I'm going to think on that a little bit. We'll talk tonight. And I told her later that evening, I said, there's a scripture that talks about the old is gone and the new has come. And what you were chewing on is gone, and God has given you new truths to chew on. And she came to Christ, was baptized. It was beautiful. But God spoke to her. He cared that much. So, yeah, that's amazing.
One woman told me
how much he cares.
Yeah. Yeah, and he reaches us exactly where these women need to know he sees them, and that's what he speaks into their lives. Yeah. One woman told me, she was so funny, but she started seeking and wondering and actually was trying to find a Christian that she could talk to. But I think she just kind of prayed, and was asked, what do I do? And she said, Jesus came to me in a dream and he said to read the Bible. She said, and he was very serious. So I think she found a Bible someplace and read it, but she said he was very serious. She figured if Jesus was very serious, she better read the Bible.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
So you've been doing this now for how long?
With the Middle East.
You've had 3 trips?
We started, my first trip was September a year ago. Mm-hmm. And then I went again in the spring, and now we're going in the fall. There's probably about 22, 23 of us going. There's the director is the main teacher. She's a former seminary professor. And then the assistant director does a little bit of it. We have a large group of licensed counselors. That really impresses me. So any counseling that is done goes through them, and each woman throughout this time period has some one-on-one time with the counselors, and most of them, their specialty is trauma healing. I've met a few women on our team who actually ministered in the Middle East, and so we've got a lot of licensed counselors, and we also have women who, like I said, have lived and worked in the Middle East, and it's really something for some, I don't know how, I didn't ask them how old they are, but they're young. And just these young single women who move overseas, sometimes they can work through working in the refugee camps. That's one way they can serve. But yeah, so it's a neat group of people, all ages. We've got, like I said, people from the Middle East, and I think there's probably some in their 20s, and our director is over 70. So it's beautiful.
Wow. Angela, we call this program Hope Talks, and I'm sure you've shared a ton of this already, but what about this ministry or what he's doing right now is just something you'd like to share that's bringing you hope?
You always hear people say, well, I went on a mission trip and it did more for me than it did for them. And you don't want to be part of a cliche, but it is an honor to serve these women and to know that even those who are from the most open countries still have their churches have closed before. They'll tell you, some of them will tell you they can worship freely, but worshiping freely to them is a very different thing than worshiping freely to us. Some have told me that in the country that they're from, that it's okay to worship freely if you are a Christian, like you have ID cards. And if you're ID'd as a Christian, it's okay, but you cannot proselytize and you can't worship if you're marked down as a Muslim. So really, God brings us into that place that he wants us through serving others. And that's where the joy is. This is not a chore. Who am I to be able to go to Egypt 3 times in a year? I'm a preschool teacher, So, yeah, just, and it's interesting because I had been wanting to go. And I knew I was crazy. I didn't tell people I wanted to go to the Middle East because they would have thought I was nuts. And I felt like I was being a bit naive about it. And until I got to go with these. So I can't really tell you exactly how it's growing me, except to want to walk worthy of the call.
Yeah.
Thinking about this foundation that you had as a young girl, you had this foundation of faith. You walked away for a little bit, but you have been able to really lean back into that missionary foundation that you've had. And like that has to bring you some freedom as you went. You've been there, you've done that. And God has continued to grow you in deeper ways and allowing you to really carry on kind of your family mission.
I feel like that, yes.
Yeah, and that's just beautiful that he doesn't waste that. And so thank you just for coming in today and for sharing with us and for being willing to go. That's the thing, is to go. And I know that what you've shared with me today has brought hope to me, and I know it's brought hope to others.
Good.
So thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Angela, it's been great to have you today. Thank you for listening to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. We pray that as we've talked with Angela Martin today about the ministry work that she does, that it truly has been a half hour of hope for your life. May God bless.
Hope Talks is sponsored by Church of the Nazarene in Harrisonburg in partnership with Sunshine Ministries. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Your feedback helps us spread hope to even more listeners. Stay tuned for more uplifting stories in the next episode. Until then, keep the faith, share the love, and find joy in the hope that Jesus Christ brings.